rotating around that in a clockwise fashion. That's the center of our little surface high. That's why we have such clear skies. But you see the wind rotation around, that's clockwise, and that's why we've got that northeasterly flow across Harris County, and that's what's going on at the surface. Again, if we get that time lapse, guys, I want you to put it up. So there we go. So this is what I wanted to show you. Notice, and if you guys can put that in the key for me so I can walk into it, put that in the key for me. So this is fascinating, and this is why we have to look at the winds at the surface and at all different levels at all times to know what's going on and what the threat is and assess where smoke or weather systems are going to go. You can clearly see the smoke rises and it goes one direction, but look at the high cirrus ice crystal clouds overhead. They're blowing in almost exactly the opposite direction. The atmosphere is complex, and winds can blow in completely different directions with a change in height. And so again, if you guys can put that in the key for me, that would be great. So there are your winds blowing in different opposite directions.
And the key, there we go.
That's our northeast wind at the surface, but way up high at 34,000 feet, those ice crystal cirrus clouds are blowing from west to east across the country in a different direction. So this tells us everything that's going on. We've got no inversion. The smoke can rise up to about 5,000 feet. That's where the temperature inversion is. So that keeps that smoke well above ground level, which is good for any threat down at the surface. And also we can see that wind direction coming out of the northeast, blowing things to the southwest. So here's how we look at that. Let's go back to weather 1. And so here's the way the winds are blowing. They're blowing in totally different directions at different levels. These are the upper level winds. That's where those cirrus clouds are blowing. And then down at the surface there, the surface winds coming out of exactly the opposite direction, blowing out of the northeast to the southwest. So it's a very complicated atmosphere, and we know that we've got that inversion at 5,000 feet, which will let that smoke go up to 5,000 feet and hopefully keep it safely away as much as possible from we down here at ground level. Okay. Set your bearings, northeast Harris County, Crosby, that's where our fire is. This is Highway 90, that heads up toward Dayton and Liberty, and then to the south and west of that it's Sheldon and Mount Houston Road area. The winds are very, very light. They are coming out of the northeast at the surface at 5 to 7. That's why you saw that smoke plume go up and then go that way. It's in that surface wind flow from northeast to southwest, very light, 5 to 7 miles an hour. That's good. Light winds allow that smoke to rise almost immediately straight up. Strong winds can blow it across neighborhoods and keep it at the surface for a much longer time. So as much as possible, the winds are actually helping the situation today. Here's a closer view. There's your fire location. There's Crosby, Barrett, Magnolia Gardens, Sheldon. But even Magnolia Gardens and Sheldon, the smoke is rising so quickly that I would imagine that a very minimal amount would be impacting you there. But again, I'm not on the ground measuring it. I'm just giving you the wind forecast and the current winds, and let's give you that wind forecast. Here's how things are going to change, and the wind direction will be changing over the next few hours this evening. Right now it's out of the northeast, 5 to 7 miles an hour. As we head into the evening, this is 9 o'clock, winds shift. They'll be coming more out of the south and southeast, and increase in speed a little bit, up to about 10 to 12 miles an hour. So at that point, whatever's coming out will be blown off to the north and west, Atascocita, Lake Houston area, Spring, Tomball, Woodlands. I'm not saying the smoke is going to impact you. I'm just saying you're in the path of that wind. And then going into tomorrow, if this were to continue, it's more of an easterly breeze, so that would blow whatever comes out of the plants across central and northern Harris County. So that's the way the winds and the forecast stand right now. Again, closer view, there's the fire. Northeasterly breeze at the surface, very light, blowing what there is of that off to the south and west. Mount Houston Road, Greens Bayou area, there's Mount Houston, there's downtown, there's Galena Park. So again, very, very light winds coming out of the northeast to southwest. At least, although we're going to get a wind shift, the wind should stay relatively light through the afternoon. Hopefully give those folks there enough time to get this thing completely put out, guys.
All right, David Paul there with an update on the winds and what's going on. And now we want to take a live look at the cloud of smoke we're seeing from the Kimco plant in Crosby, where a fire and explosion happened this morning at 10:45. One worker was killed there, and we know at least 2 others were critically injured.
And this is an indication that we will see this every now and then, a reignition of fire and more smoke. We saw this at the ITC facility in Deer Park. It's going to take some time. Firefighters believe they have this contained. That's what they said about an hour ago. but they're going to get flare-ups, and they have not told us what is in the warehouse where there are dry chemicals. We know they're combustible, but we don't know exactly what that is. But clearly, if the fire gets into that warehouse, we could see more flare-ups and an expansion of the fire. They're going to have to stay on top of it very diligently. It took days for the ITC thing to be put down, and so we don't know. This is an ongoing situation. We'll continue to watch it. Our Janelle Bluta is at Crosby High School. The shelter in place has been lifted there. Parents have been coming to pick up their kids. Janelle, what are they telling you?
That's right, Lynn. This is actually normal release time right now, so it's very busy out here. As you can see, a huge line of cars here behind me. Lots of parents finally picking up their kids. Many of them came as soon as they found out that shelter in place was lifted, but now here's the rest of the kids going. Now I want to give you a look at that fire. We're a few miles away. You can actually see the smoke from where we are here at the high school campus. The middle school campus just underneath that plume of smoke right across the street from us. They were also, as you know, we're also under shelter in place. I spoke to a mom earlier who was just making her rounds. She picked up her kid at elementary school, then middle school. She was just happy to get her kids home with her. She also said that they were feeling dizzy and a sore throat, and we don't smell anything out here where we are right now, but earlier when we were closer to the fire and then later on throughout the day as we got progressively away from the fire, we still smelled that it's like a burning plastic smell. You know, earlier I described the ITC fire was a gasoline smell, but out here it's a unique smell. It's definitely like a plastic fire, like a burning of a plastic. So I'm not exactly sure, you know, what that was. I'm assuming it has everything to do with the fire that's happening right next to us. But like I said, these kids now going home. Everyone's happy to be leaving. Parents are happy to be picking up their kids. Very active out here. We'll give you guys an update here in a little bit.
Now, Bluta reporting from Crosby and just outside Crosby High School. Thanks so much. Parents there rushing to pick up their kids. It's now the end of the school day. I'm sure relief on both sides, from parents and from students as well, likely staff and faculty too, as we continue to watch the smoke being emitted from the Kimco plant in Crosby. This fire that took place, a fire at 10:45 this morning, and what's still burning at last check was the isobutylene, a chemical that's highly flammable and is used for a number of different things for making plastics. It's interesting that Janelle mentioned that smell that she could notice in the air. She said it smelled like plastic burning, and that would make a lot of sense knowing what we have learned about isobutylene and what it is used for there at the Kimco plant. A rather sizable operation there with an interesting history to go along with it, as well as we've been taking a deeper dive and researching today. This is just another picture. This gives you a look at the scope of the facility. As you see more smoke there in the right-hand corner of your screen, but several tanks there based at Kimco at the plant in Crosby that we know of. And as we've been researching and learning, and we see someone there walking along. Now, I don't know who this person is. They're in a uniform, but they do have a dog with them. It could just be someone, a resident in the area, trying to get closer to the fire, or someone who works there in the area is trying to keep an eye on things. We just want to give you a look at just how big and bad this fire was. This is video from earlier today when the fire was at its worst. Those giant black smoke clouds you can just see there burning off those tanks. And as we take an even closer look, the fire roaring as they were trying to get as much water on it as possible. We know the response to this was rather large as well. A number of resources that were taken to and being used at the Kimco plant to fight this fire. All the while, a shelter in place underway and still underway for a 1-mile radius around Kimco, the Kimco plant that is located in Crosby, far east Harris County, if you're not familiar with the area there. But just wanted to give you a look at the expanse of the facility and the fire taking place. This is a shot a little bit further removed from the facility, and as you can see, there's still a fire burning. You know, I call it Firefighting Basics 101. Black smoke means there's something burning. White means that the fire is either out or being extinguished, near ending. So at 3:05 this afternoon, after several hours since this fire has been burning at 10:45 this morning, we still have a thick cloud of smoke over Crosby.
Time now 3:05, and we have Adam Bennett, who talked to some workers at the plant earlier today. Let's check that interview.
Did you hear anything or see anything this morning?
Yeah, we were on site.
Actually at the plant?
Yeah, we were actually at the plant. There was somewhat of an evacuation, but nothing was really said. There was no alarms that went off, and I could see all the water kick on from like the control units, and it just ignited. The tank fucking blew. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that.
What was in that tank?
I have no idea. Nothing was said to us about it.
What kind of chemicals are normally stored at that site?
It's really like a storage facility, so it can be anything. Like it can be anything. And benzene, gasoline, brake fluid. Brake fluid isn't flammable, but it could be anything. Caustic, sulfur.
And where were you inside the plant when everything happened?
Most of us were walking towards the parking lot, but honestly, we were all right there. So it was very close. Like these guys were only a little over 100 feet away at the time, but there's a lot going on.
Did you have experience any symptoms or anything?
Not yet. Everything seems to be fine. We're all more or less okay. Definitely shaken up, but everybody around kind of wearing masks though. Not really.
Can you go live? Yeah. What was your name?
Justin.
Justin?
Yes, sir.
Adam. Nice to meet you. What's your last name, Justin?
Trahan.
Trahan. Yeah. How long have you worked there for?
We're going on 2 years.
A couple years.
Couple years now.
Any issues at the plant before?
Nothing major. There's always really minor stuff. There's always, I mean, it's a plant, of course, there's like always a risk of this happening.
Yeah. Okay, we're about to stand by. Just do a live interview real quick.
Go cuss. I'll try. I'm sorry, man. It's still shaking up. So.
Yeah, so we're here with Justin. Justin, you were telling me you actually work at the plant that's on fire.
Yes, sir.
Just walk me through where you were in the plant and what happened this morning.
We were actually evacuating at the time. The operators told us that it was time to leave, but I mean, no alarm was sounded. We were just kind of walking away because, you know, we just assumed it was some kind of release. And then as we were, it actually ignited and the tank actually exploded. And then it was just everybody, it was disorganized. There was just kind of a mad dash to the exits of that.
And was it like an announcement that was made on the loudspeaker, or how was that given?
No, it was just an operator that told us. And he was nonchalant about it. He just told us, like, oh, you know, now might be a good time to leave. So we evacuated promptly.
And how far away were you from the tanks when that happened?
We were a few hundred feet, but some of my other members of my crew were much closer. They were a little over 100 feet. They're shaking up about it. They're ready to just go ahead and take off.
And what was inside of those tanks?
I'm not positive. It could be various chemicals. I mean, honestly, they don't really tell us what's inside the tanks. But it was definitely, it appeared to be extremely flammable and possibly explosive because it ignited so quickly.
And typically, you were saying that it could be a wide variety of chemicals that are stored in those tanks. What kinds of things does the plant normally store?
Again, they don't really tell us much, but I know it's various reactions, various chemicals. I know they have caustic, sulfur, benzene. I don't know if they have benzene, but I'm pretty sure. Those are just all kinds of things.
When you heard that explosion, felt that explosion, what was that like, and what was going through your head?
It was terrifying. It was definitely terrifying because I don't know. It's always a known danger, but you never actually expect it to happen.
You said you've worked there for about 2 years, right?
Going on 2 years, yes, sir.
And anything like this, close to this, ever happened?
Nothing close to this, no.
And so once that explosion happens, you guys start running.
Yeah.
What happens next?
We try to exit through the gates, but of course it's a plant, they're all locked, so we actually ended up having to basically crawl underneath the fence to actually leave. because everything's completely locked down. But then it was just basically a mad dash to our superiors until they get their head count and make sure everybody's accounted for.
All right, and that was a previously recorded interview with our Adam Bennett and Justin Trahan, a worker, he tells us, at the Kimco plant where the fire and explosion happened earlier. He's just one of 180 employees at that facility. He said he was not sure what's inside the tanks there. One thing we know certain now, confirmed by county officials, isobutylene in those tanks and what caught fire, and the black smoke that we're now seeing a much more faint plume of smoke there. Perhaps it is finally dissipating in the fire. We're closer to being near the end of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see starts and stops in terms of fighting the fire, and how close they get knocked out could take some time. Our ongoing coverage here of the Kimco plant explosion and fire, online and on air, of course online around the clock on air. We'll be back right after this.
CBS Tonight.
Have you seen Taurus?
Bring his phone.
It's me, again.
Straight to voicemail.
It's splattered in blood.
A new NCIS, then
I want the fugitive task force on this.
the hunt is on for FBI's most wanted.
Our job is to bring justice.
A new FBI after a new NCIS. CBS Tonight.
The plane. Come on. I need to go back up. The plane. A little Cessna. No. It's a small little Cessna. Like a 3-4 seater. There it is.
Where there was a fire and explosion after 10 this morning. Sadly, one worker died, 2 others critically injured. There was a shelter in place for the school districts up there. That was Crosby and Channelview and Dayton. Those have all been lifted. However, we've been proceeding cautiously as firefighters continue to fight this fire. This is from earlier video. Not as bad right now. Air 11 will get back up and get us another shot a little bit later. But firefighters told us at about 2 o'clock that they felt like they had this fire contained and they were working just to keep it from spreading. They were cooling tanks surrounding where the initial fire was.
Yeah, and we've seen the smoke come and go this afternoon as we get you a live picture right here. You can see there's still smoke that's coming from the facility, but not nearly as thick as what we were just showing you, as black and as dense and as heavy. So maybe that is room for improvement that we've seen there in the past few hours. Once again, this is a live look from on the ground there in Crosby at the Kimco plant, and just updating for our friends out there in the community HISD, that northeast end and the east side, who earlier today there was some concern about schools there and they had sheltered in place. They were taking precaution. That's since been lifted, but now the school district HISD wanting you to know about a few after school activities. There was a soccer playoff game, a soccer match between Furr and Stafford. It is being relocated to Dyer Stadium. Also, a baseball game that was supposed to take place at Coward Stadium has since been canceled as well. So just some new information as far as school-related activities in the area and the extended area as well, too. We're going to work here to get a report for you from there on the ground in Crosby. But in the meantime, we can tell you this fire has been burning since 10:45 this morning. And while the fire isn't as bad as it was earlier, it's still burning as we're taking a live look right now at the black smoke that is coming from the facility. We know that a tank that holds isobutylene is what caught fire. We heard at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, about an hour and 16 minutes ago, from Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, the Harris County Fire Marshal as well. They gave us an update on the fire, and Sheriff Gonzalez explained that the fire started when a transfer line ignited and adjacent to a tank with isobutylene then caught fire, and then an adjacent tank that was of concern as well. And then the ongoing thing that they're monitoring here, not just the fire itself, but also a warehouse facility that's located there on the grounds and that holds what they call dry combustibles. There's concern about keeping that facility isolated and protected from any of this fire. And as we heard from our expert earlier in talking about the isobutylene that caught fire and that was perhaps being released, and then it reacting with these so-called dry combustibles that we don't know what those are exactly yet. The county was going to work with Kimco to learn very quickly exactly what that was, but there's more concern there about the fire reacting with those dry combustibles, hence the word combustible, other than just the isobutylene interacting with it.
And the new information is Harris County Fire Marshal's office has lifted a shelter in place for the Kimco fire. That shelter in place, there was one for many school districts, but also a 1 mile radius around the plant. That has since been lifted. That is an indication that the Harris County Fire Marshal's office truly believes that they've got a handle on this fire. We heard Mia talking about isobutylene. We talked to an expert. That's what's been burning. That chemical is used in aviation gas, plastics, and packaging. It is highly flammable, but according to our expert, it is not like benzene. It is can cause short-term respiratory problems and skin irritation, but not the long-term problems some other toxic chemicals could cause. And the EPA has also been monitoring the air, and they have said over and over again this morning that they detect nothing of concern in the air. However, we have talked to a parent who said her children in Crosby ISD were suffering from dizziness and headaches. I think that is to be expected.
It is, but right now at 3:19 in the afternoon, the shelter in place has been lifted there for the immediate area around the Kimco facility and the fire that we've been watching there. We're going to continue to monitor the situation there, the fire, the efforts to put it out, the air quality as well. We're going to get all that information for you. We're going to continuously have more information on KHOU.com and also on our Facebook page. David Paul keeping track of the weather and the wind situation. We'll have more for you. It is all coming up on KHOU 11 News at 4. In the meantime, we want to go ahead and join Ellen in Progress.
The
That is scary.
Like a real-life Jaws.
I heard hundreds of people were killed.
Sharks gone wild.
My next vacation is going to be in Kansas.
Seeing isn't always believing. Before you share, forward, or repeat, make sure it's good information, not misinformation. Make sure you verify.
Sharks in